Well, Emma, Calvin from Waterford, let me just introduce you by saying good work, Agent Vigeland. The operation was successful. Payment will be in the usual method.
So Bitcoin, I imagine that's
Coconut coin.
Ethereum.
that's what
Coconut,
you,
your
coin.
new
Coconut
coconut,
coin?
your new coconut crypto coin that you've been
that's the typical payment
waiting
you
to
get
roll out.
for bioterrorism. I mean, I got Biden to get COVID, I guess, and he finally dropped it. I mean, wow, we're in much better position, gotta say. I'm feeling much better about things. I hope people are too. I think that Kamala Harris's candidacy will be interesting to watch. But she's to the left of Biden, and I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, certainly, I mean, she was like arguably, as a senator, and when she first got into the race, things went a little wobbly at that point. But sometimes a trajectory is nice to have. We're going to get into her issue sets as far as we know them. I think the biggest surprise that people will have will be her her relationship to labor.
Yep.
She's been definitely building relationships with unions for years. And
Particularly the SEIU, and she's reportedly quite strong on the care economy. So I could see her having a platform of child and elder care. Returning to that for the Democrats is an exciting possibility.
I mean, people are just sending us in messages right now on this program. You said repeatedly, the weakness of Biden's 2024 campaign would be a lack of genuinely felt excitement amongst their volunteers. I'm sensing a lot more excitement now that there has been in a long time. I'm very, very hopeful. I mean, we're seeing that over and over. The reports from things like is it Indivisible?
Yeah.
Indivisible. I'm seeing. I mean, I'm seeing it on email lists. Obviously, the small donors. She set a record in less than 24 hours of small donations. There's a lot of excitement. Let's just quickly recap yesterday at, I think it was 1:48 p.m. Eastern. I know this because I was just I hopped on YouTube. I think within 20 minutes, I think I got there. It took me about 15 minutes to figure out how to press the button, go live. I've got to make a little note for myself on the back of my phone on how to do it. But I think it was at 1:48 p.m. Eastern. Joe Biden put out this letter. My fellow Americans, I read it yesterday, but I'll cut down to the third paragraph. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it's been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. Let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have. There is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. And then everybody was like, ooh, he didn't endorse, what's next?
Endorse Kamala, right. Just said something nice about her.
I think within, 25 minutes, because it happened, I think, while I was doing that YouTube, we got this tweet from Joe Biden. My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Donald Trump. Let's do this. And over the weekend, I think we started to see this, even on Saturday. there were reports that Pelosi and Obama were actively trying to do this, open convention, or not even open convention, because the convention's open. I mean, if you show up, and we can talk about this a little bit later, but if you show up with less than 10% of the delegates who have pledged themselves to you, which they could do, you could run within the convention. But what they were talking about was like a mini primary hosted by.
Yeah. Well, I heard that. My sense, I have doubts about the sincerity of that. They seem to be really fixated on Kamala Harris not looking like she's, quote, anointed, which I'm not exactly sure what the value of that is, because it's quite clear that, I doubt Pelosi and Obama had no knowledge that Kamala Harris has been working the phones to shore up within 24 hours basically all the endorsements that she needs to be the presumptive nominee. So there were concerns about that, but I always maintain that if Biden just endorsed Harris, the problem of this messy open convention would be solved fairly quickly.
Yes, I'm not clear that that's what they wanted him to do.
Right.
In fact, some of the reporting suggests that it wasn't. But nevertheless, here is Kamala Harris. She just spoke, or she still could be speaking. Where is this? This is in D.C.?
At the White House, yeah.
At the White House. What event is this, Bradley?
It's honoring athletes. I just don't. Let me just get the full context. It's honoring.
Well, it's not. It was up until 24 hours ago or so. It was a fairly typical vice presidential speech.
Probably wouldn't have been covered.
Yeah.
I doubt we would have covered.
And I wanted to say a few words about our president. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states. And back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president. His honesty, his integrity, his commitment to his faith and his family, his big heart, and his love, deep love of our country. And I am firsthand witness that every day our President Joe Biden fights for the American people, and we are deeply, deeply grateful for his service to our nation. And so with that, on behalf of our president and Dr. Biden, I am honored to welcome all of you to the White House to celebrate.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that was a VP obligation, which is honestly a benefit because we know that Biden's stamina has greatly reduced in recent years. He can be president for the rest of his term. Kamala Harris has no president obligations. I mean, VP is a largely ceremonial role. So she can focus basically solely on campaigning at this point, which I think is an underrated strength of her being, the presumptive nominee at this point.
Particularly when she's going up against somebody who's not necessarily someone who had sort of counted on not having the stamina for this. Do we have that tweet from Donald Trump or the Truth Social where he's complaining about all the money his campaign spent?
He's so mad. That's what's but that's what's so exciting about this. Trump has been truth socialing like an insane amount. So he said that the RNC should charge the DNC with fraud Is that because? So wait, here we go. So we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked
Pop
Joe
this up
Biden.
on the screen, Matt. There
He
we go.
pulls terribly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? Just asking. So he's complaining that he doesn't have to run against Joe Biden anymore. Like, you've defrauded me by not giving me the easier candidate. That tells you everything you need to know about why this change was the right move, why it's injected energy into the Democratic Party, into the base, into young people, into people of color. And I know that there was a large phone banking operation for a black female organization that took place last night where there were over 40,000 people on the call. CNN reported that. So this is exactly the kind of energy that was depressed, I think, by the Gaza policy, by lack of enthusiasm, by his inability to really campaign. And still early indicators, we don't know for sure, but some of the people that resigned in protest of Biden's Gaza policy say they believe that she'd be better on this issue. And she seems to support his student debt, medical debt stuff, and ran to the left of him in 2020. So we have a candidate that has better politics than Biden with genuine enthusiasm around them right now. People still calling for an open convention. I don't know what fantasy land you're living in, but it's time, I think, to unite here and focus on defeating Donald Trump.
Again, let me just read when we talk about open convention. I just read this from Ed Kilgore, who longtime Democratic operative. At one point, he was with the New Democrats. What was the one that Clinton was the head of? I can't remember now, but he sort of became an apostate of them, sort of a centrist corporate, I don't know, about maybe 10 years ago. I don't know. It seems like it was just yesterday, but he writes in the New York Magazine, the DNC already is an open convention. Right? There's two different things here. There's an open convention, and then there's a mini primary. All this spitballing is based on one simple fact. Democratic conventions can largely make their own rules, with delegates not legally bound to support primary winners, particularly as if in most open convention scenarios, the winner of all but one primary, Joe Biden, withdraws from the race, which would eliminate even a moral obligation of delegate support for any one candidate. But what observers often miss is that under the existing convention rules, the convention will already be, quote, open. Any candidate willing to run who can identify 300 delegates. Remember, there's approximately 4,000 delegates, I think, to the DNC. No more than 50 from any one state. Supporting them can have her name or his name placed in nomination. This would be true for either a virtual roll call, what the DNC is ostensibly planning for the week after August 1st, or a traditional convention roll call. The flip side of this open process is important too. If Biden steps aside, this is, of course, he wrote this before then, there is no mechanism for him to transfer support to Kamala Harris or anyone else. He can make an endorsement, but if Democrats think it's a bad idea and someone's willing to go public with a challenge and can amass 300 delegates, the nomination could go elsewhere. So there doesn't have to be, the convention is open in that sense. It's just that everyone's coalescing around Harris.
And she had a built-in advantage. I mean, she knew that there was a distinct possibility he was going to withdraw, and reportedly he got horrible polling numbers on Saturday, which was part of the convincing. And Pelosi was the one that said she was going to. She gave him 3 weeks, according to Politico, or she would do it the hard way. An effective politician. We have our issues with Nancy Pelosi, but she still got it, even though she's older than Biden. She could count. She realized this was the situation. Harris goes into this with all the campaign infrastructure from the Biden campaign and all the fundraising money easily transferred to her. And she also had a significant head start of having inside info about Biden's decision. So she made all these calls in the lead up. And, the party's quickly coalescing. It's just they're waiting for Obama to endorse and Pelosi and the big names there to avoid the appearance of, I don't know why they care about this, but
Also, not clear to me. A lot of the challengers like Newsom or Whitmer might not be happy to have Kamala take this year and have 2028 be open for them if she doesn't win. But
I think that's true. I also just have yet to see somebody floated with a realistic possibility of getting the nomination who has better politics than her. So that's part of the issue. Well, let's take a page out of Sorkin's book and nominate Mitt Romney to lead the party or something like that. All the other ideas that have been presented are crap. Kamala Harris has decent politics, and we like a lot of the things the Biden administration did, Gaza outside of that, and she may be better on that. It's hard to be worse. So these are the kinds of things that, we just don't have time to sort through at this point because the Democrats need to be moving on to the general election.
Doorknob kebabs. Some of the some of the ground activists I know who are abolitionists and civil rights activists don't like Kamala at all. They call her the Lady Eric Adams. They're not looking for someone to have a beer with. The fact of the donors are backing her so quickly ain't a good sign. I think there was a significant number of donors who wanted to have other candidates, to be honest with you, but she's actually
a little bit late. I would like them donors to have got their acting gear maybe 6 months ago.
She is actually to the left of Biden only on Gaza. You really telling me she will be pro-unions more than Biden? Stop kidding me. Well, I would say a couple of things. First off, I didn't say that she would be more pro-union than Biden, but I think she's going to be more pro-union than, for instance, you think she is. The unions had coalesced around her very quickly. More quickly, I think, than people would have assumed. And I know that over the past couple of years, she's been making a big effort with unions behind the scenes. A. And B, I think there is absolutely valid criticism of the work she did as Attorney General in California. And, to some extent, too, as a district attorney was in San Francisco, I believe. I think that's legit criticism. There's been no indication in her role as vice president that she's pursuing those things. I don't think that she necessarily ran on that in 2020, but I think it's valid criticism. Eric Adams, I would also say, is uniquely horrible. He's incredibly corrupt. So I think it's unfair to really.
She's a lot smarter than Eric Adams. Let's be real.
Well,
Eric
I
Adams
think the idea
is a clown.
I think in terms of carceral issues, it's a problem.
Yeah.
We felt that way in the primary in 2020.
Would have been a problem with Biden too, but yeah, the Cop Cities sort of stuff going on in different cities is a problem under a potential Biden or a Harris administration.
The point, though, is that I think these are all debates we wish we could have had. We wish Biden had the foresight to step aside early on. We wish the campaign and his family did not enable this. But unfortunately, we can't have a lot of those conversations at this moment because if we're talking about opening up the convention to new candidates, because that window has passed. It's important to have that information to leverage her in this leverage positions during this race. But yeah, I just in terms of getting somebody new, I think we should all just realize that ship has sailed.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.